It's essential to find communities of support where people can relate to what you're going through. That's very important, where you feel fully seen, you feel fully heard. That is absolutely necessary. But here's the other piece that needs to be a part of that. It also needs to be a place, a community, a person where there is an emphasis on resilience building, an emphasis on helping you get to a better place. Hi there, and welcome to the Brain First Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Eileen Devine, and I am a therapist, parent coach, and educator who supports parents that are raising children, teens, and young adults with brain-based differences and challenging behavioral symptoms. If you are a parent or caregiver of a child who has intense, confusing, relentless, or sometimes even scary behaviors, you are in the right place, and I am so glad you're here. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Brain First Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Eileen Devine, and I'm so happy to be back with you today for another episode. This is an episode that came to mind for me on a flight I was on from Boise, Idaho. I was flying back to my home in Portland, Oregon. It was last spring, and I had just attended a conference for caregivers. And this conference, the participants included family members who were in the role of caregiving, as well as paid caregivers, so those in a professional role. And this conference offered sessions related to caregiving. So topics like safety and de-escalation, self-regulation, balancing caregiving with personal well-being, and various caregiving approaches. The reason I was there was to give the lunch keynote, and this keynote was focused on managing the toll of caregiving and building resiliency. Let me tell you, that is a tough topic to narrow down to 45 minutes. There is so much that can be said. I mean, honestly, so much that needs to be said on that topic, but I did my best, and I was really honored to have any time at all to talk about a really hard reality, a really hard piece of the caregiving experience that is so common amongst the parents I work with, but rarely recognized, rarely acknowledged. Or if it is recognized, it's often not seen for what it is, meaning the severity and the intensity of the experience, it's downplayed or it's minimized. And it's minimized by those who are around that caregiver, but oftentimes by the caregiver themselves too. So anyways, really important topic to talk about. Thrilled that I was asked to talk about it. And as I'm on this flight back home from Boise following this conference, I kept thinking about one statement that I made in this lunch keynote and how I had literally dozens of people coming up to me the rest of the time I was there, commenting on it to me. It clearly struck a chord with folks who were in the room. And so I thought, well, if it was helpful for all of them, maybe it's a helpful topic to dive into on the podcast. Maybe it's something that you would appreciate hearing about too. So here we are. The one statement I made that resonated with so many of these participants who were in attendance was that caregiver burnout has proven to be, from the research, a contagious syndrome. Caregiver burnout is a contagious syndrome. Now, I think you know that the researchers do not mean it's some kind of infectious disease, right? What they're talking about is what they're speaking to is the social, emotional, and physiological transmission of burnout. And this happens in families and in communities and on teams of professionals who support complex clients. Burnout can spread from one person to another in any and all of those environments. Now, I know that many of you listening to this podcast are very familiar with caregiver burnout. I know this because I spend my days talking to parents and professionals just like you, very similar realities and experiences about this very thing. But just so we're all on the same page, I want to give you the official definition of caregiver burnout. Okay, so caregiver burnout is the demoralization, disillusionment, cynicism, and the physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion that occurs frequently amongst individuals who are responsible for the constant care of another individual. As I alluded to earlier, many of the parents and the professionals that I am in daily conversations with, they don't actually recognize that they are in the depths of caregiver burnout. So they wonder, what the heck is wrong? What is wrong with me? Why does every aspect of life feel completely overwhelming and unmanageable? They wonder why they are experiencing really high levels of anxiety and depression. Like, where did that come from? They wonder why they're so irritable all the time. They wonder why they are experiencing more physical health issues. So things like poor sleep or changes in appetite or chronic headaches or digestion issues. And those physical issues or the depression, the anxiety, it seems to have snuck up on them. That's how they feel in that moment. And it makes no sense. It makes no sense to them until we begin to talk about what happens when we are in the depths of caregiver burnout and how it often is this slow accumulation of symptoms over time. It feels like it comes out of nowhere, but it's been building for a very, very long time. So let's go back to what I started this podcast talking about today, which was that one statement that I made at this conference that stood out to so many people. And what we know from research, which is that caregiver burnout is a contagious syndrome. It is hard on your nervous system when you live with and/or are responsible for caring for someone with a fragile nervous system. Someone who frequently dips into dysregulation, who needs lots of intensive support. We can become fragile ourselves as a result of being in this role, and this can potentially lead to burnout. Caregiver burnout, nervous system burnout, we're talking about the same thing. I see them as exactly the same thing. So no matter which description of it resonates most strongly with you, that's what we're talking about here. How hard it is on your nervous system when you live with someone who has a fragile nervous system and needs that type of intensive support. So you may have noticed that I said it can potentially lead to burnout because there is a preventative factor here that's important to talk about. How do we prevent this from happening? So to prevent that burnout, nervous system burnout, caregiver burnout, we do things to build our resilience each day. And one of those major resilience building activities is being in connection with others who can provide you with co-regulation. That heals nervous systems. Their regulated presence is a buffer influence to your more fragile nervous system. It helps you recover. It helps you come back into regulation. It heals. Now, the flip side of this is also true. If we are in the company of others who are chronically dysregulated, this has a contagion effect as well, except it will be a triggering influence to our nervous systems, not a buffer. So this is what is meant about caregiver burnout being a contagious syndrome, this triggering influence to our nervous system. This is why I always say to parents and professionals who are caring for fragile, complex kids, what I always say to them is to choose your support wisely. It is so, so important. I'd say it's essential, actually. It's essential to find communities of support where people can relate to what you're going through. That's very important, where you feel fully seen, you feel fully heard. That is absolutely necessary. But here's the other piece that needs to be a part of that. It also needs to be a place, a community, a person where there is an emphasis on resilience building, an emphasis on helping you get to a better place. If it is a place where the only conversation is one of how hard things are, and that community or that team or that person, it's just this overwhelming feeling when you're there in their presence of hopelessness and helplessness, that will have a contagious effect on you. It will lead you into further burnout. The support you engage in, whether it's a community of people or, like I said, a one-on-one individual basis, it needs to be a place where you can speak openly about your struggles and how hard things are. You don't have to censor yourself. And where the response you get is something along the lines of, man, that is so hard. How can I help you? What do you need in this moment to find some relief or some peace? How can I help you get to a better place? I get it. And I'm so glad you told me, and I'm here for you. Basically, a place where you know you can find consistent, reliable co-regulation. If you are looking for a place with all of this that we've been talking about in today's episode and more, I want to encourage you to check out the Resilience Room membership community. It is a community of amazing parents that I've facilitated at the time of this recording for over 6 years. We open our doors a few times a year for new members, and at the time of this episode going live, we are gearing up to do just that. You can join the waitlist to learn more about when we open, no matter when you're listening to this, at go.eileendivine.com/waitlist. I will include information about the Resilience Room membership community and the waitlist in the show notes. It is absolutely a place where parents feel seen and heard and are also provided with the support they need to build their resilience and heal from the burnout, the place of burnout that they may be, and also prevent themselves from moving into burnout in the future. All right. Thanks as always for listening. And until next time, take care. Before I say goodbye, I wanted to be sure to let you know that this isn't the only way that we can stay in touch. Every week, I pop into the inbox of thousands of other parents just like you with a short note that's focused on various aspects of this unique parenting experience. If that sounds like something that would be helpful to you, you can join my email list by going to my website, eileendivine.com.